think we're moving to a world where people are using UIs less as reps, and the data is just coming to where you're doing your work. Basically, I'm seeing the most cutting edge teams actually not rely on CRMs.
Yeah.
I see them rely on like Snowflake or Databricks and have it as like a flexible store of data. And then the data just finds the rep at the moment that they need it.
Hello, fellow data nerds. My guest today is Varun Anand. Varun is the co-founder of Clay, a GTM platform that helps over 5,000 companies with data enrichment and
10,000.
sales outreach.
10,000. We're at 10,000. 10,000 plus.
Holy mackerel.
10,000.
Okay, like I'm completely
Google,
out of date.
Canva. Let's go. It's got of control.
Whoa, okay, I love it. I know that you guys recently raised $100 million Series C financing valued at over $3.1 billion valuation. Varun, welcome to World of DaaS with your 10,000 customers.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm
crazy.
excited as well. Now, like a lot of GTMs, like they're coming together like, dozens of tools to run all their campaigns. And they've got like maybe all these zaps in the back end that are moving data around and stuff. Like, how do you expect that to change over time?
I think it'll change quite a bit, right? Because maybe it might be helpful to just take a zoom out for a second on what the market is like, right? Because I think it's an interesting market where you have Salesforce and HubSpot taking up a lot of the value as systems of record, right? And massive companies. But then you kind of don't have other real major businesses yet. There's a lot of point solutions in go-to-market, right? So that's contributing to what you're saying, which is everyone has something for everything. Why is that? I think a big reason is a lot of these companies are founded by salespeople who found something that really worked for them and then productize it, which makes sense, right? The thing is, in go-to-market, you kind of need to keep changing because if you find something that works and other people copy it, then you have to change again. And then when you change, you can't use that product anymore. You have to do something else. So what we think the market actually needs is this place we call it like an IDE where you can come up with new ideas and iterate really quickly, experiment really quickly, and execute them really quickly. We think that's Clay, that place for people to do that. But we also think that's what the market is pushing for people to actually need. And the problem of stitching together all these things, stitching together all of these data sources, that can be solved with something like Clay. And that's kind of where we think the market is going.
Got it. But there's still an opportunity, like there's still going to be all these great point solutions to do something like really amazing. Again, it might not only work for like 9 months or something. And then the idea is that you have this kind of IDE and it kind of hooks into this other solution. Or do you think like the IDE itself is going to be creating each of these things every few months?
I don't think that the point solutions will last, right? Like you can see companies like Champify and UserGems and other point solutions like that, which are just telling you, hey, someone changes their jobs, or hey, like someone came to your website. I don't think point solutions like that are going to endure in this transformation. But I do think, and I think they'll become features of some larger platform, maybe Clay, whatever. But So I don't think point solutions like that will endure, but what I do think will endure are like individual data providers, right? There's going to be lots of niche data points that someone's going to spend the time on to go find and get. So there are a lot of things like that will kind of endure, but I don't think the tactical point solutions that we were just talking about will kind of endure in the long run.
A lot of these data providers are built on LinkedIn, some sort of way of crawling it or whatever. Like, how does that work? And then like, why hasn't LinkedIn helped with some of these solutions?
Well, I think they're trying,
I mean, terribly. Like their products are just like not really very good.
Yeah. So look, I mean, I think they have an extraordinary trove of data that they're sitting on top of. They have probably by their own admission would tell you they have not taken the best advantage of that from product perspective. And in that absence, hundreds, if not thousands of companies have popped up to try to do something in that space. And LinkedIn has been very litigious with that, right? So that's their right? They have these terms of service, and they're saying that certain companies are not compliant with that. My understanding is there's been some rulings on this topic in federal courts, and that says that basically, if you're scraping public data, that's okay, That's allowed. Now, maybe LinkedIn probably still has an issue with it, but that's kind of what the legal
So
standing is.
if it's obviously, if it's like indexed by Google, it's okay.
Yeah.
But we're also moving to a world now like where everybody has an agent,
Yeah.
right? So right now, if I want my like assistant to, or my BDR to log into LinkedIn and do some research and everything like that is allowed by LinkedIn's terms of service. But if I have my agent on my behalf log in as me and do some things as me, which we're going to be doing for everything. I'm going to be doing that to like make my travel reservation. I'm going to be doing that. Like, why can't I do that on LinkedIn? But then LinkedIn says, no, that's not allowed under your terms of service. It has to actually be a human go do it, which is kind of crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is confusing, and I think that they are trying to figure out how to make sense of all this in this new world. I think it's very messy.
Because once you have like the browser AI, right, which is like definitely on its way. I'm already using Comet, which is part of Perplexity, right?
Yeah, me too.
But all these things are definitely on its way. Like, I don't even know how LinkedIn even doesn't know it's me, because it's like it's an agent. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm doing it with an agent.
They're tracking how, like I think there are ways that you could, like, let's say you're trying to do it in mass, right? And they're tracking that. Like, let's say
then you just but then the agent's smart and it just says we're not going to do more than 40 searches per day or something, and less than a few per hour. Of course, like it'd be a little bit weird that I'm always doing these searches like 3 per hour at 3 a.m. or something, but like whatever,
yeah. So it's not clear, and it's a messy area, and we're watching it closely, obviously.
But ultimately, like they're gonna lose those things. Like you have to be able to allow your agent is you. So you have to allow your agent to be able to go in and do it. Again, it has to be respectful.
Yeah.
So they can put a limit on your searches.
Right.
So they could say, Varun, you're only allowed to search, 50 times per day at this tier. And if you want to search more, you have to get, a higher tier. And that's fine. But they can't say like, hey, where if you have an assistant on your behalf, like he can't search for you. Like that's kind of insane.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
What other data sources do you think like we need today? Like what data sources do you wish we have that we don't yet have, or that are coming, or that you're excited about?
Yeah, good question. I think one area that's actually like pretty under resourced right now is like people, like basically there's, I think, still a staggering number of businesses that are not really online yet. Things that are online have really good capture, but I think offline, local businesses, small businesses outside of the US still doesn't have like remotely as the kind of data that I think that we're used to when you're working with like tech companies. And so I think there's a huge amount of potential there. And I think a huge push just to get, I think we're almost taking it for granted still that like when we see Facebook's numbers of how many billions of people are online, maybe like individually, but the businesses themselves haven't caught up to the standard of consumer yet.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Obviously, if you're in the US, like you need to, and you're a business, you kind of need to advertise somehow, and so you need to be found. So you want, if you're a car mechanic shop or something like that, you want to be found on Google or Apple Maps or something like that. So you have some sort of presence somewhere online to be found, but that's not true everywhere.
I mean, even in the US, I don't think it's true. Like, I think we still take it for granted. That's why all these HBS squads are starting these search funds to try to roll up car washes and car mechanics and bring them online. So I don't know if that would be happening if that was really up to par.
What other types of data do you think like we need or is coming?
I mean, it just depends on the audience, right? Of who needs the data. There's still a lot of closed ecosystems, that are hard to parse, right? Like Meta is a fairly closed ecosystem. It's hard to get data from there. I'm trying to think.
It's still like remarkably hard to like create a custom audience and advertise against a small number of people. Let's say you have 5,000 people you really want to advertise to. It's like remarkably difficult.
We're working on that. We're trying to.
Amazing.
That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it very easy to develop like a custom audience that you can do anything with. Maybe that's advertising. Maybe that's sending them personalized cookie jars or something in between. But that's what we're working on.
Now, we all know LinkedIn is like super slow. It's hard to use, takes forever. the company that's even like worse than LinkedIn is Salesforce. Like the UI is absolutely horrible. It's literally terrible. It's like embarrassing that like
I
we could
feel
have
like this
such.
podcast is just trying to get me in trouble with
Yeah. I mean, it's like
all the
it's
companies we partner
literally
with.
like I can't believe like all like the engineers haven't been fired at that company. Like it's just so terrible. Like why do we all still use it?
Um, Look, I think that we talked about this briefly at the beginning, which is I think that uh, Salesforce and HubSpot have like these entrenched ecosystems and these entrenched moats on and have captured so much value because of they're becoming these systems of record. But I do think that that's shifting a little bit. And so what
And
I
by the way,
actually,
like I use HubSpot and Salesforce,
yeah,
and from like a UI user perspective,
right. But no, but
HubSpot
I'm,
is like 30 times easier to use than
yeah.
Salesforce.
But I guess my point is I'm seeing this change basically.
Yeah.
Basically I'm seeing the most cutting edge teams actually not rely on those like
On either.
CRMs.
Yeah.
I see them rely on like Snowflake or Databricks and
Yep.
have it as like a flexible store of data, and then maybe use a Clay, maybe use something else to like orchestrate it, and then the data just finds the rep at the moment that they need it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they get a
Yep.
text message before they meet someone. Maybe they get a Notion doc with a briefing before they meet a prospect, whatever. And maybe they get a ping in Slack, right? So I think we're moving to a world where people are using UIs less as reps, and the data is just coming to where you're doing your work.
Which makes sense because no one likes to go in and like enter stuff. They just they want it just to be there.
Yeah.
And maybe they want like a quick lookup. So they want, like what happened with this customer or something, or did we talk to them before?
Yeah.
But maybe that should just get pushed to your inbox. Like, maybe you don't have to go find it somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
What
by the way, just on that note,
yeah.
We've built automations for our own sales team that do exactly that. So like let's say this was a prospect meeting and I was selling you. After this this meeting, I would get like a Slack message or an email that says, "Hey, great meeting with Auren. Here's like a follow up that you can send. Is it good to send? Do you want to edit it? Do you want to change it?" And then like it automatically gets sent.
That's awesome.
And, like, things like that. Like I'll wake up tomorrow morning and get like a briefing of like all the signals that happened the night before. Like, hey, who went to the website? And then do you want to act on it? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? But it's not coming in a new platform. It's just operating where I already am. Like in Slack,
wherever you are.
Gmail.
So if you're in Slack, you're in email, like wherever you are. All right, that's great. I love that. We've seen with a lot of our companies that the number of people in marketing broadly, and let's include SDRs in that, the number of people in marketing is going down. In many cases, we're seeing companies where they used to have 40 people in marketing and now they have 10 or something, and they're using vendors, they're using AI, they're using tools, they're using APIs, they're coordinating, they're not spending less money,
right?
But are you seeing something similar?
I think we're seeing like a shift in how the structures change, basically. Because I think if you look at a traditional sales org, you have SDRs who are prospecting, you have AEs who are closing deals, you have rev ups who are managing systems, you have marketing who's kind of trying to create pipeline, and they basically operate like an assembly line. But the issue with assembly lines is they're standardized and they're not built for sharing learnings and insights. And if you're not doing that, you're not going to win.
Yep.
And so what we see instead is like we've invented this role called GTM engineer, where they're kind of like building revenue systems using AI and automation. But basically, we see people like those in the center of this using tools like Clay or whatever to build systems. And then they're doing the work. They're doing the work on behalf of all the reps. So all the manual research, all the manual work that's happening with reps, that gets centralized to one person, two person, three people. And they're doing all this work on behalf of everyone else and building systems that can kind of scale their creative ideas.
Now, 5 years ago, I would say 100% of good marketers were Zapier masters. And today, maybe they're using like a Pipe Dream or an N8N or one of those types of things to kind of put these tools together. These are like, at least relatively technical people have transformed. In some ways, like marketing is more of a science than engineering. Are you seeing something similar?
I mean, I agree with you that marketers are becoming way more technical, but I might disagree on the like science versus engineering point because I think we actually do see the engineering discipline being brought to marketing on the growth side.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I think it's more just like the systematic mindset is all, and the systems mindset and how you can kind of like build a repeatable system that can keep like driving pipeline. Um, and maybe you can even call that science because it is in some way, but it's not like, yeah. I think we see that systems building approach and mindset way more.
World of DaaS isn't just a podcast. World of DaaS membership is a private, invite-only community for founders and executives of important data and AI businesses. It's a place for off-the-record, high-trust conversations focused on the biggest questions data leaders are facing. The community is about peer learning, curated intros, and access to private events. Everyone in the group is building or leading something meaningful in data. If that sounds like you, apply to join at worldofdaas.com. That's worldofdaas.com. Now, we're already starting to see when salesperson's on a call with a client, we're already starting to see like AI as a helper. You may have an AI note taker. You may have different like points that come up live to help that client navigate, help the salesperson navigate certain things. You may have like an AI sales engineer on the call as well. When do you think it will become more common where the actual salesperson is an AI?
I think we're already seeing it. Actually, like I've had lots of not personal experiences, but I know lots of people who have that experience. Like I'll just give you a few examples, right? I know like in so many other industries, home services, property management, whatever, people are already using voice AI.
Yeah, when
Maybe
you
not as
call
a
them for sure.
salesperson,
It might not be
but to
video,
solve
but
all
when
the
you call them.
problems.
Yep.
That's happening right
Yep.
now. I think that, I just learned a fun story about Coinbase the other day, which is they have like a voice AI avatar that screens all early career candidates that are coming through their top of funnel.
Oh, that's so
and,
cool.
and if you get past that, then you finally get to a human. And I wouldn't be surprised if someone has built and is using like a SDR.
And by the way, if
type
I'm a candidate, I've got my own voice AI avatar that screens all the companies too.
Yeah.
The first one.
Yeah. No, I think it's a fit. I think it's good. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's already happening in sales in some way. But I'm also I'm not surprised about the technology or when that's happening. I think I would just question whether that's right for the company and actually like make sense for them, or what trade-offs they're going to face with that approach, and because I think like basically I think the thing is when you're in voice AI for home services or plumbing or whatever, the answer, it's deterministic. There's a right answer and a wrong answer. Did you solve the problem or not?
Yeah. And then it's just like often it's just like scheduling too or something, right?
Yeah, it's just like a deterministic path, right? That's not true in candidates and that's not true in sales. There's way more art in knowing the fit, both in candidates and sales. And I would question whether technology can do that now or in the near future.
How is the SDR function changing? Like how have we seen it change to date and how do you expect it to change over time?
I mean, we're actually launching SDRs at Clay for the first time. We're creating our own function. And basically we're seeing like the best SDRs, all their manual work, all their manual research completely automated. So they're mostly spending their time on very high quality, targeted, individual outreach to like the biggest enterprises and like multi-threading in very specialized way. Say it again.
Very custom,
very human touch, or cold calling, right?
Yeah.
Or they're using Clay and other tools to build their own systems to build pipeline, but they're not like doing a lot of the normal SDR type work. A lot of that gets automated away, and so you can be way leaner. But at the moment you still need a human touch. I've heard lots of companies, like a lot of blue chip unicorn companies that built internal systems or use Clay or whatever, and then when they added the SDR team, they saw dramatic improvements with the human element, but then they can actually take away a lot of that work and automate it, and then just keep the parts that are uniquely human, that are uniquely creative.
How do you? I'm super interested in like pricing and how that changes people's use of the product.
Yeah,
And you guys opted to do some sort of usage based rather than like a seat based pricing,
yeah,
which I generally like because like I've said this before. Like I love Airtable,
yeah,
uh, but because they have a seat based pricing and it's like super expensive per seat,
yeah,
basically almost no one at our company uses it.
yeah,
And so basically all of our stuff is still on Google Sheets.
yeah,
Whereas if they did a usage based pricing, like we would use it for everyone would be using it all the time. We'd be
yeah,
paying them more.
yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, we started doing usage-based pricing in like 2021 or early 2022, and it was very early in go to market. We may have been the first ones in go to market to do it, because every time I met someone or a prospect, they were shocked that it was in seat based,
Uh,
and they almost didn't believe me. They thought they were getting the deal of the century. They were like, "Oh, everyone can just use this." But I think for us, the insight was we don't actually want everyone to use it. Our product is a product made for more technical audiences, who, and by technical I mean GTM operations or systems people or growth marketers, that you're talking about, to build systems on behalf of a lot of people. We explicitly are not building for salespeople, actually, and so uh, that's the intention. And so that wasn't a trade off in our minds. It was just like we actually want just a handful of people to build on behalf of other people, and it was the value metric for us, because at the beginning we were more transacting data, and so usage based was a better corollary for that than seat based, especially to cover our cogs. And obviously AI has made that way more standard in the years since, and so it felt really natural and authentic to us, um, even though at the time it was unusual in our market.
Now, what are the things in data? You've got a ton of different data providers.
Yeah,
Your cost is just like in some ways like the most important thing about data is that the fact is true,
yeah,
right? And often with data, especially with marketing data, most of the facts, in many cases, or a very high percentage of facts are not true or they're out
yeah,
of date or whatever. How do you ensure or how do you test which data? I'm sure with some data providers you realize, oh, they're really good at this, or they're not good at this, or they're good in this geography but not good in this geography, or they're really good on cell
yeah,
phone numbers but they're really bad on titles. Or
yeah.
how do you kind of think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not clear cut, and we spend a lot of time and energy on this. We try to publish these data tests that try to give more transparency to it to everyone else. But basically, we do a lot of testing, right? And there's match rates and fill rates, and then there's like accuracy, um, and we do our best, and we run like large, statistically significant data tests on all of it.
And so you have
Um,
some sort of truth set somehow, like, okay, that Varun's cell phone number is X
Yeah,
or
and there's a lot of
something.
sampling. There's a lot of
Yeah.
sampling as well to really triple check the data. Then, by the way, we also have checks and balances, right? So we have actually a way in product for you to give feedback on the data to determine if it was right or wrong, and then we
Okay,
can.
so in the obviously if email bounces you'll know, but there might be other things within the product
Yeah,
where people
that's wrong.
could actually just like put in this is wrong, and that's like a feedback cycle.
That's a feedback cycle to the provider. So there's always a continuous loop of improvement. And then, by the way, for like phone numbers and other contact providers, we have like lots of verifications. So we have like 10 plus contact verification sources that we partner with as well to track it and check that in real time.
Got it. Um, and and when you're evaluating and so in some ways when you have you're buying data from all these different providers, let's say about the contact information,
Yeah.
about engineers or something,
Yeah.
um and some so what you're saying is that you may use, it could even be like 5% of the data is amazing, and like 50% is okay and the other 45% is junk, and then you'll just use that 5%
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Like, for example, like there are lots of providers that give you 100 data points, but maybe only two data points, like website traffic and revenue, are
Yeah.
really, really good. We'll just take the API calls for that and cut everything else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or they're good for that, but just for, France or something or whatever. They try to have it globally or
Yeah.
whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of That makes a lot of sense. What we found for so many of these companies that sell data is it's very hard to get a premium on price when you're more accurate. Because people they don't believe it, or they don't have a
Yeah.
way of testing it,
Yeah.
or whatever. And so there's this like price degradation. So you can get, you can have more coverage. That's a
Yeah.
way to get premium. But it's very hard to get to actually prove that you're a better product. How would you advise data companies to help them prove they have a better product somehow?
Honestly, we'll just do a data test with you. Like if you were like, if you want to prove that you have a better product, seriously, just tell us.
Yeah.
Because if you do, it's fully in our incentive to figure that out with you.
Yeah.
You know,
And would
and then
you
by the
then
way,
publish a blog on it? Like,
yes,
hey,
yes,
we
and then it's in our
chose.
incentive to tell
Yeah.
the world that it's really good. You know,
Okay.
and so we're the distribution partner for all these data providers. And if you actually think your data is better, just tell us. Tell me. Emails varun@clay.com. It's fully in my incentive to double check that and make sure that's true. Because if it is, you're going to make a lot of money and more people will come to Clay. So it's a win-win for everyone.
And one of the things with data is that it has a shelf life. Like if I have data about you,
Yeah,
okay, well, today you work for Clay, but back
sure.
in time you didn't. Maybe 5 years from now you might not, or something
Yeah,
like that, or your title might change, or whatever. And it's changing quite a bit.
right.
And so it might be good today, but it might not be good in the future.
Right.
Like,
Like you
how
came
do
to my
you?
website last night, but then that's useless to me if I wait 2 months to act on it.
Correct. Yeah. So you
Yeah.
have that too as well. So how do you know from a data provider's perspective if they like continue to be good? Like, are you like retesting it in some ways? Are you re-getting feedback?
Yeah. We do retest it. We do get lots of feedback from users. Generally speaking, data decays like I think it's like 2 to 4% a month or something
Yep.
like that. And so we're tracking that and monitoring it. Um, and then, by the way, but there are, by the way, a bunch of data points that have longer shelf lives, right? Like mobile
Right. Like the
numbers.
fact that your gender doesn't change as
Right.
often or something,
Right.
right?
Mobile numbers aren't changing. Company addresses don't change that often.
Yeah.
Funding rounds, unless you're a hot AI company, don't happen that often. So there are a lot of things that are do endure. And then, by the way, we obviously also push people to signals, like things that are happening all the time, and you're monitoring those,
Yeah.
right? And so, like I'll give you a good example. Like Canva, one of Canva's products is they help you keep your brand consistent across lots of different social channels. And they use Clay to monitor LinkedIn and Twitter for posts from brands, and then they use AI to analyze them and be like, hey, is this on brand or off brand? And if it's off brand, they like message the head of design and it's like, hey, this doesn't meet your brand guidelines, you should buy Canva. So there's like lots of signals, or like Vanta's tracking companies that become SOC 2
Oh, so
compliant.
it's like a go to market motion or something
Yeah.
like that. Oh,
Yeah, it's a
that's
go to
cool.
market motion based on these signals. Or if you're in
Oh
real
wow! So
estate, like when
that's a very, very, very great email. Imagine if I got that email from Canva, I would be like very excited to
yeah.
if they told me something very specific about my company.
Yeah, it's very timely. So that's what we try to focus on like how can you, because that's the whole thing about go to market. It's like you need to know when someone has a burning need for your product, and how can you? What is the signal for your business? Like, is it they updated their support documentation? Is it that they're doing this thing that doesn't make sense online? Is it they just became SOC 2 compliant? Did they just buy and get a new office and that's in the news? Let's find that signal because you know something about your customer that others don't know, and then you can build a system around it.
More and more of our customers are doing research on LLMs,
Yeah,
and we're seeing this kind of like move from SEO to GEO. How do you
yeah.
think that like plays out?
How do I think that plays out? I'm not sure I have a good answer for this one. I was just sitting next to one of the people at Profound last night at dinner, actually. I don't feel like I have good insight on this question because um, it's right now feels very gamified
Yep.
and
Just like
uh,
SEO in a way, right?
in a way, but SEO. I don't know about that. In a way, yes, but also in SEO, the cream of the crop typically tends to rise. And are there
Yeah.
ways to gamify that? For sure, but typically the higher quality gets to the top. With GEO, I don't know if that's clear yet. I also hear about crazy tactics that people are doing, and unclear if any of them work. Actually, like I've heard of a tactic where someone is just spinning up lots and lots of bots to ask the same question on these things, answer the questions.
We've all heard those things for
Yeah.
sure. We all had
But
friends who've
like
tried it, and I do think some of them have been working, right?
some of them work,
Yeah,
some of them
it's a
don't
cat and
work.
mouse game. Yeah,
It's unclear if any of this is making a difference too,
it's hard to measure. The SEO is easier to measure. Like at least traditionally, when you and I have searched for, best sushi place in San Francisco, we get the
Yeah.
same results. Whereas, like when we're on ChatGPT and ask that question, like we're often getting different
Yeah.
results based
Yeah.
on a whole bunch of different things that are happening.
Yeah. To be honest, my genuine reaction is I wouldn't change behavior too much based on this. I generally kind of think maybe I'm being irresponsible here, but I generally kind of think these moments happen in marketing all the time. There's always a new hot thing. There's always a new hot tactic, like always. And in this moment of time, maybe it's GEO. I don't think you're going to solve your problem with that by like getting the right tool for GEO or something. I think if you just make high quality content that helps people, it'll work itself out. And make
Yeah.
sure you distribute it in places that make sense. Like don't put it in a don't put it in a black hole. But like I think if you just do that, I'm not saying do that and pray, but generally speaking, that's 98% of the work. And these optimizations on the side are necessary. But I think oftentimes people get like really attracted by these like fads and the hype and then the FOMO. The FOMO is real because you're like,
Yeah,
hey, someone's spinning up 6,000 bots to like do this. And you're
totally.
like, fuck, why am I not doing that? But just like do really good content that helps people and it'll kind of work itself out.
Yeah, it's also interesting because these LMs are changing so often, like just
Yeah.
how they do things is
Yeah.
changing it seems like
Right.
every few weeks they're
Right.
changing.
So how
So
could you plan your business around
yeah,
that?
you don't even know. Like I have a friend, he was getting a huge amount of traffic from ChatGPT for his business. And then they, who knows? They did some like random update, and his
Yeah.
traffic went down by 40%. Like
Yeah.
literally one day, had nothing changed. Like,
Yeah.
whereas Google, like that those updates happen like way more slowly over
Yeah.
time because it's just a more mature product.
Yeah, for sure.
What else do you think is like changing on B2B data?
Changing on B2B data. Um, hmm.
I mean, these intent signals are so important,
Yeah.
right? It's like I am not in the market for most B2B things very often.
Yeah.
But when I am in the market or I'm getting close to the market, like it's
Yeah.
that cold email no longer is spam. That cold email is actually very valuable content that I want to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. Look, I think generally speaking, your ability, the basic answer to your question of what's changing is your ability to ask certain questions about your business and get answers to those questions is better than it's ever been before.
Yes.
So I'll give you an example of this, of what I mean. We have a customer who's a logistics staffing company, and they can only serve warehouses of a very specific size. But there's no good data on warehouses. And so how do they do this? Well, they'd be screwed if this was 3 years ago. But right now, what they can do is they use Clay to get Google Maps to show up all the warehouse locations. Then they use AI, and then they pull up the satellite images, right, through Google Maps. Then they use AI to analyze the satellite images. And then with AI, they count the number of parking spots around the warehouse, and then they count the cars in the parking spots. And it turns out that that's the best predictor of warehouse size and employee count
By the
than
way, there
anything else.
are I can send you later, but there are great companies that have like square footage of warehouses.
Great, great, great. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that
Yeah.
for this company,
Yeah.
I mean, actually send it to me, and I'll send it to this company,
Yeah.
by the way. But they didn't, they weren't able to find
That's
the
what
data source
so
that
they
works
had
for
to go
them.
manufacture it themselves,
And so
essentially.
they were
Yeah.
able to use AI in this clever and creative way.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I
That's
know
cool.
companies that use AI to count chimneys,
Yep.
or
Solar
or
panels and
right, or like I know a company that does music licensing and does licensing for venues, but they now, instead of having humans go and inspect all of them in person, they have AI analyze the internet and reviews and Yelp to understand like what genre of music they're playing, how loud the music gets, all these things
so
to
cool.
determine if they actually need the license or not in a way they could have never done before. And so the ability to ask crazy questions about you and your customers and whatever, and then answer them is better than ever before. And I think that's really what's changing the market right now.
Now, you guys did a 10-year offer, $20 million 10-year offer.
Man,
To
we're
let,
moving. We're moving from topic to topic. We're going
yeah.
tender offer pricing.
I don't
GTM
mess
data is
around here. I roll the
changing.
dice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you let employees sell some of their shares. Like,
Yeah.
walk us through the logistics of like kind of how that worked and what you learned
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah. I mean, look, we try this. This is the time we publicized it, but generally we try to offer employees the chance to sell whenever we do a fundraise. But the logistics are painful, I would say.
Yeah.
Tender offers, like I'll just give you the logistics. Like we agreed to the terms with Sequoia, I think in January, maybe it was early February, and I don't think we did it. And we were able to do it until like late April or May or something. Like it was an unbelievable amount of time with lawyers and stuff to set this all up. And by the way, it wasn't even $20 million. People didn't want to sell. So it was actually way less than that in terms of what actually got sold. Uh, and so I would recommend, basically my philosophy is give employees the ability to sell stock as often as you can, right? And there are legal constraints and whatever, but just as often as you can. But then also, I think the legal burden of a tender is quite high. And so I would try to just like do like one-offs with like 10 employees at a time or something, and that's like super fast.
Sorry,
And
what do you mean by the one-offs of how would that work, or how does it work?
I mean, I think if it's under 20 people or under 15 people, you don't need it to be a tender. You can just be like, hey, Auren wants to buy stock. Let's have the board approve it. Here are 15 people who want to sell stock. Go for it.
And then you don't feel like as a company you're like picking favorites as to who those
I
people
mean, you'd have to
are and stuff.
logistically figure that out.
Yeah.
I'm not trying
Or
to
do you
like.
just like randomly pick them out of a hat or
No, no,
something?
no. I'm just
Like,
saying, I think
yeah.
you have to get interest in some way and do this in some
Yeah.
fair way. I'm just saying the logistical burden of doing a tender. It took us 3 months, and I'm like hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal bills and all these
Yeah.
things. Like it's a lot. And so, if there's like a more informal
Now,
way
when
of
you did
doing
it,
it,
like when you did the tender, you said you did it more than once. So when you did it the second time, like, was it easier? And if so, like, was there some sort of learning from the first
well, I
time
think
to
it's
make it
more just
easier?
when people want to sell and they tell us, and then
Yeah.
we try to facilitate it if there's a way that we can do that. But the formal tender, we've only done once.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, look, I think generally speaking, when like it's like 10, 15, 5 people who are trying to sell or interested, you can do that in a way that's not as logistically and legally burdensome.
Yeah, because you could just say to the investor, "Hey, just go contact these 8
No, no, I
people or
think I
something
think
or
the
whatever."
company can coordinate it. I don't know all the
Okay.
details, but I'm pretty sure the company can coordinate it in a way that like helps make it happen, and then you get the board approval, and then it just kind of happens.
So let's say you're doing a tender. You just raised money at a $3 billion valuation. You're doing a $50 million tender or something like that to your employees, but you don't want that to affect the 409A price of the
Yeah,
stock. Like, how does that work? Is it if it's small enough, it's de minimis and it doesn't
yeah,
affect, or how does it work?
yeah. We've generally the guidance we've gotten when we talk to our lawyers that it shouldn't affect
So
the
it has to be
409A.
small enough to not
Yeah,
to do it.
yeah, and
Okay.
generally you can make arguments with the 409A providers that feel compelling and reasonable, and they can work with you on that.
And then if Sequoia is investing at a 3 billion valuation, but they're getting this preferred stock, the preferred stock does have a lot more value than common stock. Are you doing the tender at like some sort of like discount to that or something?
Well, I think if you're a really
Or
good
do you
company,
convert it into common when Sequoia buys it or something or
no, no,
whatever?
we don't convert. It's just all common if it's a
Okay.
tender. But look, I think basically it just depends on the market demand for your stock. If
Yeah.
you are a really good company that's doing really well, investors will pay the same as they would for preferred. If you are not a good company, they're going to ask for a discount. I think that's just like the market
But I mean,
realities.
preferred does have preferred rights. Like it should have some premium over
Well,
if it's the
sure, but if
same
the company is
investor
really
now,
hot,
but there might just be a limit to what they can buy. So
no, no,
then
but if
maybe,
if the yeah, that's the thing. Like, look, hey, like just let's say Clay, for example, we're really
yeah,
efficient as a business. We don't burn that much money at all. We don't need to raise that much money, and so hey, let's just say we raised like $100 million, but there's a lot more demand, right? People want to invest
right.
more in the company. We're like, hey, we just don't need more primary. In fact, we didn't even need the 100 million for the record. But they're like, hey, you can buy secondary if you want,
Yeah.
and the market demand is so high that they're happy to pay the same price because that's just the
But that
market
that that
realities.
e- that it either means that the preferred is too cheap, or it means the common is too expensive. Like there's one of those two, because the preferred is better. So it does mean like if you're getting them at the exact same price at roughly the same time, the
hold on.
preferred is potentially too cheap then, right?
I don't think the preferred has to be too cheap, but I also think that the rights of preferred shareholders gets less valuable as the company gets more de-risked.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But it still has some value, right?
It has some value, but maybe you say, hey, I can't get access to this company that I'm trying to invest in, and so I don't care about that access. Or I don't care about those rights.
Yeah, so I'm willing to pay some sort of premium or something to get more access.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Obviously, like you see rounds done at $3 billion, and then all of a sudden someone can't get in, and they're like, "Well, I'll give you $4 billion to get in." So the same thing happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
So this is just kind of a version of that.
Yeah.
Now you guys also did like a community round. What is that?
A community round is basically a fundraising round, but for your community. And so
like your customers,
and we have a big community. So we have like 70 clay clubs all around the world. We have agency partners that are making millions of dollars a year built on clay. We have a lot of like clay supporters. And I mean, honestly, we are a community driven company. Like we are building for the community, and they are why we've been successful. And so we just wanted to help them. We wanted to find a way to have them be a part of our story and feel like financially and economically bought into the company, because they're the ones helping build it. And they're the ones getting economic benefit too from it. And so this was an opportunity for us to do that.
Got it. Okay, cool. And how does it work when people are investing?
Another logistical mess, I would say.
Okay, yeah, because like some of these might not be qualified investors, and
so So the thing with this is you have a few options. Man, we're really getting to the details of.
We have a nerdy audience here.
Yeah,
they love this stuff.
Yeah. So basically, you have a few options. There are a few providers that do this. We used a company called Republic. There's another you could maybe consider AngelList. There's WeFunder as an option, and I'll just. And
you're creating essentially like a RUV type of instrument.
Okay, so there are trade-offs with all of these things, right? So with AngelList, everyone has to be an accredited investor. Which is like a high bar for people in our communities. They're not really set up for this. They're not really set up for like hundreds, if not thousands of people to participate in this. WeFunder, again, the details are a little hazy because this was like a year ago, but generally I'll just try to do this at a high level. Like WeFunder had this flow that didn't make sense. Like they kind of been like, hey, it kind of works like a GoFundMe, where they're like, hey, put up this page, first come, first serve. And I was like, no. What I want is a setup where you say, hey, we're doing this. You should apply, and then we select the people, right? Because obviously I want to know who's.
Or you might want to change their allocation. They want $30,000 of allocation. You're like, sorry, you can only get 15 in the end or something.
So we want all that kind of flexibility. And then the other thing that WeFunder asked is they were like, hey, you should need to reserve some of your allocation for like WeFunder VIPs, like random people who we don't know. And I'm like, I don't care about them. Like, I want only a clay community. So that's why we didn't do WeFunder. Third option was Republic. It was mostly okay, but the logistics of, and maybe they've improved this since then, but the logistics of actually doing the funding, like we had a big drop off of people who like got accepted and then actually invested, because the logistics of doing it were very cumbersome.
Just like actually wiring the money or that
filling out the forms. It was like a very cumbersome, confusing process on the Republic site.
And it was like 15 clicks to...
Yeah, it was a lot. It was way more complex than that. It took hours for people, actually.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I'm not talking about optimizing a little onboarding process. I'm talking about
hours. I love AngelList is like, if you're on it, it's just like you literally press a button and like the money just goes.
No. It was way more complex than that. And so we had a real drop off, which was unexpected because we didn't diligence that part of the process.
I always wonder like why more people don't do it, and it sounds like more people don't do it. It's just like it's just freaking annoying.
It's really annoying. Yeah, it's really annoying.
Are a few personal questions. You cold emailed your way to a job with Hillary Clinton. First of all, like walk us through that story, and then I have a couple questions about cold emails.
I mean, I'll tell you the story, but I also cold emailed way into my job at Google after that. And I cold emailed Kareem, my co-founder at Clay, which is how we met.
Okay. All right. Well, so I love this. Okay. By the way, I've met like many friends through cold emails. So many of my enduring friendships have been cold.
Me. Do you know that?
Exactly. Yeah.
Was that a real email or was that someone was it an automated email?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. It was hard to tell.
A real email that was templatized.
Okay,
Yeah.
it was templatized. Yeah. It wouldn't seem that tailored, but I was like, okay, I'll respond to this. So Hillary, yeah, it's a good story. And I'll tell the story with Kareem too, because that's also really good. Basically, I was 18 years old. I was obsessed with politics. I thought I would do that for the rest of my life. I was a freshman at Penn, and I really wanted to work for Hillary Clinton in particular. And this was like 2012, early 2013 or something. She had just left the State Department, and I was trying to find a way to get in touch with her and like work with her in some way. I eventually found
why? Why was
I was actually just really passionate about her. I had admired her for a long time, and
Okay.
I had like, and I just wanted to be a part of working with her in some way, shape, or form. And at the time, she was just a private citizen, actually. But I was just like, I want to be involved. And it turns out that she had a small personal office of like 6 people. And so I hunted down the senior advisor to his personal email. And when you're a student, you have access to alumni databases. The email tools back then weren't as good as they are now, but you have access to alumni databases. And so I was at Penn, but this guy went to Columbia, and so I had friends at Columbia, and they went through their alumni database and got me his email. So I got his email that way, and then I cold emailed him 10 times. And he didn't respond. And then the 10th time, he's like, okay, fine, I'll meet you. But just let me know the next time you're in DC. So obviously the next week I invent an excuse to come to DC.
Right.
I'm in Philadelphia, very easy. And Bolt Bus for the win. And he's like, okay, fine, meet me at the Starbucks below my office, right? So I'm like, okay, I come to the Starbucks. What I didn't know at the time is he tells his assistant, who I'm now friends with, hey, this crazy person has emailed me 10 times and has asked for a meeting. Just interrupt the meeting in 5 minutes and get me out of this. So I meet with him for 5 minutes. The woman comes down, interrupts the meeting, says, Philippe, you have to go. But the first 5 minutes went so well that she ends up just staying for the next hour. And then he more or less offers me a job at the end to be like the 7th person, the intern, the junior person of this personal office. So that was that story.
That's awesome. I love that.
And then I worked for her throughout college. I would basically commute from Philadelphia to New York and DC, very convenient again, during the year, then spend all my summers working with her, and then graduated a year early in 2015 to kind of work for her campaign full time, and then did a variety of roles with her there. That's one story. And then with Kareem, so Kareem originally started Clay with his best friend from college, Nikolai, in 2017. They didn't find like a product they were excited about. So there was a lot of rotating and pivoting for like 3 or 4 years, and they didn't really commit to a particular vision. I was starting another company at the time and was in the no code space. And so I was in a Slack group where someone mentioned a webinar about Clay. But at the time, Clay didn't have any revenue, no customers, no users or anything, just like a very early product. They were trying to do a webinar. So I signed up for this webinar, but no one else shows up. I'm the only one who shows up. And it's not even Kareem, it's someone else. And so I'm like, I started using the product, playing with it. And I'm like, whoa, this is really crazy. Like, I'm really into this. I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I cold email Kareem, but he doesn't respond to me because he's on a silent meditation retreat. So I cold email Nikolai, and he does respond to me, and we hit it off. And I'd like to think, actually, I've told Kareem since this, I think if Kareem responded, none of this would have happened, because Nikolai and I have very similar personalities, but Kareem and I don't. So I don't think we would have hit it off in the same way. And Kareem is like inherently suspicious of things like this. So whereas Nikolai embraces it. So anyways, I hit it off with Nikolai. We spend more time together. We start working together. But then Nikolai decides to leave the company to pursue his own things, like another company. And a few other people in the company leave, which is very bizarre. So the company resets in a lot of ways. It was just Kareem, like 1 or 2 engineers. And then I kind of joined as a late co-founder for whatever reason. And we're like, let's just commit to this new vision. Let's reset the business. Let's launch the product in this new way and focus on go-to-market. And we kind of went from there.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, how would you, if you're advising people to write a good cold email, like how would you advise them?
I get a lot of cold emails. Most are bad. I think there's probably a couple things you're trying to do. And actually, there's a lot of advice where people are like, be as brief as possible. But I've actually gotten cold emails that are unbelievably long. In fact, like crazy long, but also worked. So I don't think that advice on just like write super short emails that are
Yeah.
to the point. People always mention that Snapchat email, to Evan Spiegel.
Yeah.
That was like 4 sentences and to the point. I've actually had emails come to me that are like paragraphs upon paragraphs, like
Yeah.
essays, but are so good and compelling that I'm like, okay, like someone took all this
Yeah.
effort to write this. Like, let's
Yeah.
talk. Basically, you're trying to convince someone that you can do the job before you've done the job,
Yeah.
Like you're trying to solve problems they have. And so you're trying to communicate something that they should give you a shot, right? And so what could that be? There are many options, right? There's not a script or a template for this. There's a lot of options. So you could have some insight about their product, about their company.
Yep.
You could do a lot of research and be like, hey, here are 5 problems that I found, and here are fixes for all of them. That's me doing my job before I get there, before you
Yep.
even met me. Like
Yep.
that's cool. Like I would meet with someone who did that,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe you have something.
Here's like I've used your product and here's how the
Yeah,
product can be better, or here's
yeah.
what I
Or
like.
just here's on your website. Here are 5 issues, right? Like I
Yeah.
just got a cold email. This was yesterday, by the way. I just got a cold email yesterday from a team in India that makes claymation videos, and they made a custom claymation video for clay that was handmade. They made all the clay themselves, and they showed a lot of effort in doing it. So I watched the video. I'm like, wow, this is a lot of effort that they've gone
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
And I'm engaging. Now I'm introducing them to how to
Of
brand.
course. Yeah.
Um, and they went to a lot of effort just for a cold email that they have no idea what's going to happen with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
But you might as well, like, those are the ones that are going to convert well. And actually, and if you're passionate about it, it's, all these other things that go through it.
yeah. So I think you're just trying to communicate something like that. And that's what's worked when people cold email me, basically.
Now, how are you personally using like AI tools, like outside of Clay? How
Yeah.
are you personally using them?
There's a lot of ways. I think I'll just focus on 2 that are more like often, like more like that are more ingrained in my day to day. So one is Whisperflow. I use Whisperflow all the time. This is like a
Yep.
voice to text
Yep.
product. All the time I'm using Whisperflow. It helps me way more efficient. The other thing is a friend of mine.
And I use Whisperflow on my desktop, but is there a mobile
No,
version?
there's mobile too. Yeah. I use it on
Okay.
mobile.
I should start using it. And you like it just because like it just works better than like the Apple version of it.
Yeah, it just works. It just
Yeah.
works. And I do a lot of text through that. I'm a big audio note guy. So yeah, it just works. The other thing is a friend of mine built a product, which he then pivoted to something else in property management AI. But he built a product for me, basically just me, because I think I'm the only customer. That auto sorts my inbox into different categories using AI. And it's amazing. So there's just 3 categories now, and it's just action, just read, or archive this. And it saves me unbelievable amounts of time because I get hundreds of emails a day.
Yeah.
And it
Instead
just
of like having it, because I have like 400 filters that put them into the read folder, and this
yeah.
this just like automatically does it, so you don't have to you do all those filters and stuff.
Yeah, just
and,
3 things.
Yeah.
And it's almost always right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. It saves me an unbelievable amount of time.
That's so cool. All right, 2 questions we ask all of our guests. What conspiracy theory do you believe?
Yeah. So we actually had a little conversation about this before the show. So we could talk about a couple. One is the Denver airport, which is bigger than the city of San Francisco and was dramatically over budget and dramatically over timeline. And there's a lot of conspiracy theories about what happened there. And like, is it a secret bunker? Is the government using it? Like, is there this underground town happening
Why
there?
not? Like, why would there not be like a huge
I know.
underground system if it's that big? Like, you could
Yeah.
fit a lot of stuff under there. Like, it
Right.
makes sense to go
Right.
do something there.
So I think I believe that. And then another one that I asked a friend about is he was like, shark bites. He was like, there's only 70 to 80 reported shark bites a year, but lots of people know individuals who've gotten bitten by sharks, and the numbers don't add up. And so the conspiracy is that people don't, towns and papers don't report the shark bites because they don't want it to be a disincentive for tourism.
God, so people won't go to like Miami if
Yeah.
they think all these people are getting bit by sharks. But if
Yes.
it's like, oh, you have less likelihood of getting bit by a shark than you do by hitting by lightning or something, then okay, great. Then it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But
That
sharks
makes
are out
sense.
there and they're
There's
dangerous.
no incentive to like to advertise that unless you're like unless you're like a competing Maybe if I'm like, a competing area or something, I could advertise that Miami gets all these shark things because no one in my area gets shark stuff or something.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
that's super interesting. All right, last question we ask all of our guests. What conventional wisdom or advice do you think is generally bad advice?
Honestly, I have like 100 of these.
Okay, awesome.
So we can
Let's
be
dive
talking
in.
for
Yeah.
we could be talking for hours about this because I feel like at Clay we just do a lot of things somewhat uniquely or authentically to us that always buck conventional wisdom in some way, shape, or form. I'll try to just do a couple so we can stay focused here. Um, One is, and this is a kind of a little bit of a comment about 996 culture, but there's conventional wisdom, especially in early stage companies, but just generally, the people should just always be working crazy hard and working 996 or just like working really hard all the time and grinding. But what I often find, especially in early stage, and then when they're like, oh, you don't need to do that in a mid stage company because you have lots of people, you have product market fit, and you need to optimize burnout. I'm actually thinking of it differently because, and they're like, in an early stage company, you need it the most because you need to stay ahead. But what I find actually, and I got this from like, this insight was inspired by Kareem. What we found is that at early stage companies, you're oftentimes constrained not by time, but you're constrained by insight um, because you need an insight to really find that product market fit, and you're not usually just in this like random
That's
rat
why he was
race.
at that silent meditation retreat when
That's
you
right.
emailed
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're really constrained not by time and your ability to just do a million things, You're not building like a packaging business or something usually.
Yep.
Like you're really constrained by an insight that will help you truly differentiate and find unique product market fit that can help you build this extraordinary company. Because that's how the best companies are usually made. It's through a different insight,
Yep.
not just like doing the same thing everyone else is doing, but a little bit better. Um, and so I think that's true. And something we share often. Um, I think another thing is around interviewing. I think there's a lot of pressure and wisdom around you should interview lots of people, basically, and you should just meet lots of people. I feel this FOMO all the time when I meet other founders or executives, and they're like, "Oh, I interviewed 100 candidates for this role," and a lot of the times I hire the first person I meet, um, and or the first person I liked,
Yeah.
and and I feel pressure about that. I feel a lot of insecurity about that because I'm
Why
like,
why 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 would you not hire if you thought someone was good for the job?
well,
Why
you
would
feel
you not
insecurity.
hire
You
them?
feel insecurity because you're like, am I doing the best job? Did I really do a good job? Did I do a good job? Am I doing my fiduciary responsibility to find the best fit for the company? Right. But I
If it
think the
just
truth
happened to be the
is,
first person.
well, it's not even just, I think the truth is you don't actually have to be exhaustive. You just have to be right. It just has
Yeah.
to feel right.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you're at companies like Clay, good people come around, and and by the way, this is a pivot to another piece of conventional advice. Like when you're at companies like Clay, um, you VCs, lots of people will inundate you with like experienced hires, and I think if you look at our org and you just remove the EPD side of the company for a moment and you look at the business hires, half of those people at Clay have never done their job before.
Yeah.
But I think that's a lot of why, like we have plant store
I'm
owners and brand
surprised
designers and people.
it's half. I'm surprised it's not like 90% or something or whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are some people who know what they're doing, but like I think that a lot that like more than 50% are never are doing. They're coming from completely different backgrounds. Like it's archaeologists being customer success people,
Yeah.
it's physicists being events people, and that's what creates the special sauce, the creativity. It's politics people running ops, right? Like so. Uh, I'm not saying experience doesn't have a place. And certainly, if you're hiring a lawyer or an accountant or a data scientist or an engineer, you probably should hire someone who knows what they're doing. But I think it just comes at the right fit and the stage. Our salespeople aren't salespeople, right? We don't hire salespeople to do sales and we don't pay commission. And only now are we hiring like more seasoned salespeople because that's a better fit for us now. So it's just like thinking about the fit. And a lot of times people feel pressure to just be like, let's hire the person who's done it before. Whereas I know there's always advice like, hey, don't hire someone at Microsoft to do something at Figma or whatever. But even more so, people won't do that. Like people won't make that obvious mistake. But now people are still making the mistake of hiring someone who's done it at a startup to expect them to do it again at another startup. And even that, I would say, is flawed in many ways. And truly, is that person really the right fit for your stage and company, what you need?
Now you mentioned like okay, you're on the phone. You think this person's good. You don't have to interview 100 people. You could hire them. You're also married. How did you do that with your spouse? Did you have to did you have to go through 18 people first, or did you how did you make the
No, I think
decision
the
to get
same thing
married
happened with
there?
my wife. My wife was, I don't want to say she's the first relationship I was in, but the second or the third,
Yeah.
I met my wife when I was 23. She was actually 6 years older than me. She was 29 at the time, but I was very young when I met my wife and just committed. It felt good. I was happy. I am happy.
Yeah.
It's working. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to
That's
overthink my
awesome.
happiness.
Yeah.
It's working. I'm happy. Everything's good. And it's again easy to feel FOMO or pressure of is the grass greener? Is this happening? But it's just I'm happy. Things feel great. We're very aligned. We're in love. Don't overthink that, because most
Yeah.
people aren't even in that state. If you're
Right.
happy,
If
not.
you're
You're at a
happy in
90%.
love, they like you. That's about all you could ask for. That's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been amazing. Thank you, Varun, for joining us on World of DaaS. I follow you at VX Anand on X. I definitely encourage our listeners to engage you there. This has been a ton of fun and super interesting.
LinkedIn. That's where we're pushing the content. LinkedIn.
Okay, LinkedIn. So I also follow you on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, absolutely. This has been amazing. Thank you again.
Awesome. Thanks, Auren.
Thanks for listening. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to World of DaaS wherever you consume your podcasts, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and more. And please help us get discovered by leaving a review. And check out worldofdaas.com. That's worldofdaas.com. And of course, connect with me on Twitter at Auren. That's AUREN. Would absolutely love to hear from you.